in 2 seconds. It says that we are live.
We are live. We're doing it live.
Yeah. Okay. No swearing. No swearing. We want to keep this adult directed, but not profanity laced, so that nobody watches it. Okay. I believe we are live right now. Anyone in the comment section, which I see on a delay, can say why we are live. Not why. Yes, we are live. Nate, how you doing?
Yeah, we are live. I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm good. It's been a long day. Weekends used to be more fun before kids. Now it's not going crazy during the day, and someone goes crazy at night trying to put the kids to bed.
Well, my weekend is like, it's funny. You work all week, and then my weekend is more work with the kids. This is my man, Uncivil Law. What's going on?
Okay, so
he's got a new avatar and everything. He's hooked up now, man.
Let's see this. Hold on 1 second. Wait, that's the please. I want to see this one. Viva, try turning on the camera. Viva black video camera isn't helping.
Let me see. I see you. Well, hold on. Let me look at the live chat.
While everyone gets here, I'm going to go. I hear commercials. That's always a good sign.
I see you. I'm on the live.
We're going to get off to a messy start here, people. Okay, good. No, I can see myself. Does everyone see? I see both. Okay, Uncivil Law. It's fine now. Sure, it's fine now. Okay, he was trying to throw us all off here.
Yeah, you got to throw rough shot.
Unicorn Cupcake. I see both. Good. Okay, while everyone slowly trickles in, we're going to be talking COPPA. I guess we're going to talk other stuff at some point. Like, things are going to come up while we talk. I said Legal Eagle's name has to come up at least twice. I also said if you hear noise in the background, that's a dog. 1 second. Hey, keep him busy.
So all right. So what's going on, everybody? I'm reading the comments here. You wouldn't have this problem if you were a marine potato. Hey, your comment is your side chat is wild. I mean, Uncivil Law, I swear to God, I was trying to help you on this one.
You wouldn't be having this problem if you used a main potato instead of a PEI potato. PEI potatoes are delicious. So we are going to be doing a COPPA live stream. We're going to talk COPPA. We're going to take questions COPPA. We're going to Nate, full disclosure, it hurts me to say it. He knows much more than me about this, and he answers my questions on the issues and the administrative side when I have questions. So we're going to take questions. I told Nate, and Nate and I came to this arrangement beforehand. We're going to be splitting any live chat 50-50 during this live chat, super chat, during this live stream, 50-50. If anybody has any questions and you put up something of a $5 super chat or more, we're going to definitely answer it to the extent that it's not asking for specific legal advice, because that would be reckless, negligent, culpable. What else?
You said as many adjectives as I can think of right now. And also, if we could actually answer the question too, don't ask us, how many cups of water in the ocean. I don't know is an answer to that question, So to the extent that we can answer it.
So we're gonna talk about it because there's a lot of panic going on. There's a lot of videos going on. I've been watching easily, 10, 15 hours of video this week on the particular subject. We got a first super chat. We got Mike Lane, $2 for a better internet connection. Is the internet connection bad?
I think yours is fuzzy. That's the problem. Because I'm looking at it on both sides. Yours seems like it's a little fuzzy.
I may have to go closer to the router sooner than later. Split 50-50. I dare you. $2.13. Well, in Canada, we no longer have pennies, so we round everything down. We round everything down to the up. No, at 3 cents we round up. But then how do you divide 5? Uncivil Law. Stream support hype down at the COPPA Cabana. So I have been dying to make like puns with COPPA feel and COPPA, Well, I had other puns which are not socially acceptable, which we can't do. People be fuzzy. Okay, you know what? Forget it. I'm going into the other room. I'm gonna go to the. I'm gonna go closer.
Hold on a second. Closer.
We're gonna do it. We are genuinely doing this live, people. Walking through the house.
We're getting a tour of the house now.
Let me just make sure that it's not disgustingly filthy behind. And I'm gonna sit on the couch like this. Okay. The lighting is terrible. We're going to give it a few seconds and see if this is better. Did you hear about the $37,000 fine that French comedian got for a joke? Yeah, that's Mike Ward.
We were just talking about that. It's still To be honest with you, it's still like it's like you're in Beirut giving us on the scene in the wood of a war zone.
Well, right now, I think it's going to be terrible. And everyone, we're gonna timestamp this so everyone can skip the first 5 minutes of this this show here. Yeah. So did I hear about the $37,000 fine? Yes. Mike Ward, the Court of Appeal maintained, saved $7,000 for the kid's mother. Oh my gosh! Now I want to hear another dog. Give me 1 second, please.
All right,
I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
Skip the first 10 minutes of this. Nate,
let me do the first 5 minutes of COPPA here, since we're talking about COPPA. All right. Since Viva we have a little technical difficulties, let me go to what is COPPA. Now, for all of you who don't know, before we start answering questions, COPPA is the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, passed in 1998. Now, one of the most interesting things is I was looking up like what was going on in 1998. Now, I'm hoping this doesn't shock you guys, but 1998 is the year that President Clinton was impeached with the Monica Lewinsky scandal. That's how long ago we're talking about this law is being passed. So we have COPPA. Now, COPPA, the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, passed in 1998 by Congress. Now, what that did is allowed the FTC to promulgate regulations that required that commercial operators of websites and online services that were directed at children under 13 be regulated in some way. And the FTC was that regulatory agency that was mandated to do this. Now, the law enabled the FTC to regulate that specific content. And what we call that's called an enabling statute. In the administrative procedure, it's called an enabling statute, the statute that enables the FTC to pass these regulations. Now, the FTC passed these regulations through what we call notice and comment. Now, notice and comment is the due process that the Administrative Procedures Act allows us as citizens to at least be notified of any type of regulations that are put forward, and for us to be able to comment on them, to tell us why these regulations are put forward, and for us to give them feedback. So if you go to the FTC's website, they have an open notice and comment period right now for the new regulation they're trying to amend it as of right now. So what you can do is you can go to the FTC's website and actually comment on the regulation. The FTC is mandated to kind of read through those comments to see how the stakeholders are being affected by these regulations. And you'll see they'll even put based on, X amount of comments, we've now changed the regulation to something new. And that's something that they have to do based on the law. Bill COPPA, Bill Clinton.
So, yeah, sorry, some of these comments are good enough to put up, even if I don't necessarily condone the humor. I'm being a stick in the mud there. Okay, so explain the first part about the FTC being able to write their own regulation, because I think that's what's confusing a lot of people. How does it work? The legislature, you have government that says we're going to mandate the FTC to govern themselves, sort of.
All right, so this is the way. So most people don't realize, but the laws that affect most people's lives are actually administrative laws. They're not like the statutes passed by Congress. Congress passes the statutes, but what they do, there's Congress will pass a law. In this case, COPPA, and they'll say, all right, we want to protect children's privacy online, so we're going to pass this law, COPPA, which they did, and COPPA, and they'll say we want the FTC to then pass rules or regulations to regulate that market. So that's what that law is. So Congress passed the law, and then the FTC, the people on the committee, they are the experts. They're supposed to be the experts, and as experts, they're supposed to then put these regulations into place. Okay, this is what we want to do. So obviously, in 1998, the internet was to a totally different place. So COPPA, the biggest fear in 1998 was that you had somebody like some evil person behind the computer screen trying to get kids to give up their address, their phone number. It was that type of thing. So that was the big fear, that, you had the bad people trying to get kids to give up their personal information online. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know any 6-year-old that can get on a computer and can type in their address and stuff like that, but that was the big fear. So they passed that law, and the FTC passed the rules to regulate, saying you can't get any type of personal information. But obviously the internet changed, because now you can get all the information from cookies. So you don't even have to ask the person for that information. You can just get it from their browser history and those personal identifiers. So obviously the FTC then changed the rule and said, okay, well, now we're going to let this rule now apply to this type of data. That, in other words, the kids don't have to type in their data. You can't get it from their cookies. So what happens is that in the United States, the FTC, when they promulgate a rule based on the statute, and then they interpret what that rule means, they have almost, I don't want to say an absolute authority, but they have a real, the authority they have is almost as close to absolute as it can possibly be, because there's a case called there's a case, it's called Our, and the Supreme Court is interesting because Justice Scalia, the conservative lion, wrote this opinion, and what it essentially says is if that the FTC or any administrative agency passes a rule, which they did, and they get to interpret their own rule, and if their interpretation is if they're interpreting what they call an ambiguous term, then the courts can't even review it. It's called Our deference. You guys can look it up. Our deference. It's been chopped down a little bit, but it's called Our deference, and it's so like strong.
Our as in O-U-R or H-O-U?
A-U-E-R. It's called Our deference, but it's so strong because now what you essentially have is the FTC writing a rule, and then they're interpreting their own rule. Where generally most people would understand that if you had the federal government, like and the way it usually works is that the Congress writes the law and the courts interpret it. But in administrative law, that doesn't work. It's the FTC who writes the rule, and it's the FTC who interprets it. So it gives the administrative agencies a lot of authority in this area. So that's where we're going on now. They're able to interpret their own rules.
So two questions first. First of all, Kilo Wolf is asking, doesn't Nickelodeon target children with commercials? And so we need to distinguish here between targeted ads and I think they're called contextual ads.
Yes.
Basically like commercials that run during certain television shows, which are context driven, as opposed to targeted ads, which are based on specific user data.
Yes, and this is why you never see a My Little Pony commercial on an NFL football game on Sunday. It's because with those type of ads are just based on the market. We know men generally like beer and like cars, and that's why you're going to see a lot of beer and car commercials NFL Sunday. Versus if you're on Nickelodeon, you have a lot of children watching those ads, so we're going to place children's ads on there. But they're not. But now YouTube has changed the game. YouTube and the internet has changed the game with these targeted ads, because now what if I love football, but what happens if I don't like beer? So those beer commercials aren't helpful to me. But what will be is if I was a My Little Pony fan, YouTube was able to say, well, hey, if you're watching a football game on YouTube, we're going to give you an ad for My Little Pony because, hey, I like My Little Pony, versus a beer commercial, which I don't like. So those targeted ads are more valuable to advertisers. And also it's and that just makes sense. It's obviously going to be more valuable. But to get those targeted ads out to people, they have to collect data. And if you collect data on children's content, that's where you get the violation of COPPA.
Okay, and also I'm muting in and out, so if ever I don't, if ever you don't hear me when I come back in, just let me know. I guess the idea there is that ads running during The Simpsons are not going to be based on the specific viewer's pattern. It's based strictly on the context of The Simpsons as a show versus what was going on with the FTC and the YouTube violation, which was they were collecting specific user data, and say within an episode of The Simpsons, they were advertising or targeting ads to the viewers specifically based on their individual user data, which is the difference between targeted ads versus contextual ads. That's the thing, not to equate children's ads during My Little Pony versus specifically targeted children's ads during My Little Pony, where you would be getting specifically different ads for individuals as opposed to the same ad for the general context of My Little Pony.
Yes, correct.
So that's the first major distinction that everyone should know when talking about this is YouTube was busted not for running kids ads during kids shows, but for gathering data to run targeted individualized ads to individuals based on their specifically, what's the word I'm looking for, gathered data individually and not, say, contextually as depending on whether or not they're watching a Nickelodeon show. So that's the number one thing people need to understand. J Vlog, what is it? J Vlog House? Who's the guy?
I know you're talking about. Yeah. If
someone remembers who he is, please post a link in there. But he illustrated or elucidated that difference in his live stream with Daryl Eves. But there's a difference between gathering information to target an ad to every individual user based on their individual habits versus contextual ads. Oh, people are watching My Little Pony, so we're going to run kids ads during that show.
Exactly.
Okay. Who appoints the commissaire, as we say in French, but who appoints the commissioners to the FTC?
Well, they're appointed by the president, and I think, they're appointed by the president and approved by the Senate. So the president appoints, the Senate approves them, and the vice and consent of the Senate, and then that's how they get on. I think there's a five-member committee.
Okay,
now, go ahead.
So they're appointed. They are appointed. They draft their own regulation.
All right. So they're appointed, and Congress gives them an enabling statute. All right, we want you to regulate X here, child content. And then after Congress says we want you to regulate that, then they, based on that statute, gives them the authority to then write rules or regulations based on what the Congress, what Congress has given them authority to do.
Okay, so they write the regulation.
Yes.
They then interpret the regulation because they are the arbiters. Arbiter.
They are
the arbiters of their own regulation when there is a dispute that they bring in virtue of the regulation that they drafted.
Well, just to go back. All right, so they'll draft the regulation, right? So they'll draft the regulations. Now, there's two ways that regulation can become law or can have legal effect to us. The first way is they can go through like a trial-like process where they'll go in front of a judge, they'll present evidence, and they'll have like an actual trial, like almost a trial, to see whether this regulation is good or bad. Now, that is complicated, and almost no regulations get promulgated that way. But the second way they can promulgate these regulations is through what they call notice and comment. Now, notice and comment is the lowest form of due process that's due to you under the Constitution of the United States. And when you have a notice, so what they do is they'll say, we're drafting this regulation and we'll put it for notice and comment period, which means any person who is affected or actually any citizen can go and give their opinion on whether this is a good law, is a bad law, so forth and so forth. And that's what they're doing with this particular regulation now.
Is that once the law is in effect, or is that prior to implementing the law in order to determine how they approve it in what form?
That's prior before they approve it in what form. So we actually are, as stakeholders, get a voice to tell them, how we like the law or not.
Okay, and I hate to ask the obvious question, but how does anyone find out that this is going on to even do that in the normal run of things?
Well, it's published in the Federal Register. So you can go to the Federal Register. Yeah, so if you go to regulations.gov, there's a list of like all the regulations that are going through notice and comment. Like, for instance, remember when they banned buck stops? That was a regulation being put forward, and you can go and comment and say, we like it or we don't like it, or how it's going to affect you and your business model. So, they're all up there, even though there'll be a hell of a look through, but they're all up there. And think about this, for this regulation for COPPA in 2013, right? I'm sorry about this. Your connection is bad. But think about this. In 2013, they got 500 comments. And those were enough comments where they read those 500 comments and changed the law. And it actually says it in their little preamble. They says because of so many comments, we actually had to go and change some things. But now, with the new regulation, obviously because YouTube is affected, they have over 160,000 comments.
Now they have too many to consider, so it's almost worse.
But they have to consider it because the stakeholders are now involved in like, hey, this is going to affect us in some ways. So it's very, very interesting to see. And the only reason why I know this stuff is because I taught administrative law for 2 years. So that's why I'm familiar with the process. So. And
I'm not bringing this up to poke a jab at Legal Eagle. Nate is extremely well informed, and it's fantastic to have Nate on my, as a friend, on text message, on email. It's fantastic because Nate knows stuff. And despite what some people tend to say in the comment section of other videos, I think Nate is pretty, I won't say central or centrist, but he's pretty reasonable in everything he assesses. It tends to be objective knowledge.
Oh, so someone's asking me about well, to be honest with you, I'm not sure, because I know Justice Kavanaugh. It's Justice Kavanaugh. He hates our, and they're asking me about the modification. So I'm not exactly sure how to, because they sent it back to the Fifth Circuit for more. So when that case comes back up, we'll see. But it seems, because before, if a case got our deference, the courts wouldn't even look at it. So this was a case where it got our deference to the lower courts, and when it went to the Supreme Court, they sent it back for some more fact finding. But I have to see, because it's still alive. Like right now, our deference is still the law of the land. So I'm not sure how it's going to modify, but we'll see. We'll see how after it comes back up.
Okay, so from now, the joke here is that we have our administrative courts as well, the Human Rights Tribunal being one of them, and everyone knows about the Mike Ward comedian being fined. And I was illustrating that internal structure from a Canadian law perspective, and people were saying, like, we live in a communist state and making all sorts of jokes. Mm-hmm. It sounds very similar with respect to the FTC, that you have an administrative tribunal.
Yes.
They have the specialty. I don't know what makes them specialists in what they do, but they're granted that sort of deference. They render their own judgments. What does it take to appeal one of those judgments, and how would that work hypothetically? They come down on someone like me who's got 10 videos from 4 years ago that they deem to be kids, and they give me $30,000 fine per video. I say that's patently unjust. What would be like the process of appealing that decision?
Well, you'd have a couple of things you have to do. First, number one, what are you appealing it about? Are you saying that the regulation doesn't, if let's say if your argument was this regulation doesn't apply to me because I'm not website operator or channel operator. So if your argument is that this doesn't apply to you, then you'd have the issue that you would have is that you'd have our deference, because the court will say, well, it does apply because the experts on the FTC says it applies. So that's what you'd get. You generally get like the hour difference. So the courts would say, well, we're not going to hear that because we're not the experts. They're the experts, and we have the Supreme Court precedent. If you had some constitutional issue that you can hit, maybe it was, if it really depends on if you had like a free speech issue or something like that you want to bring up, then I think the courts would hear that, because you're not now talking about the regulation, but you're talking about it offends the Constitution. So it really would be fact specific on how you're trying to challenge this particular regulation.
Okay, so and I don't want to get into the Canadian side in any great detail, but typically with your administrative tribunals, the higher courts might say we're only going to intervene if there's been a patent injustice or a patent obvious error in law. Otherwise, even if it's sort of unreasonable but tenable, we're not going to get involved. Is that sort of the same sort of threshold that you have in the States?
Well, here it's called the term is arbitrary and capricious. You'd have to prove that they just did it like, hey, just 5 guys got together and was like, yo, we're just going to do it this way. And there's no reason, no rhyme. We're just going to do it this way. But that's extremely hard to prove. That's hard to prove that they were just being arbitrary. It's been done. There's cases that show that it's been done, but it's just very hard to prove, especially when they put it through the process of notice and comment period. So,
and if you want to challenge then the constitutionality of because you couldn't even challenge the constitutionality of the regulation because they drafted it themselves in virtue of an authority that was granted to them.
Yes.
So how might that work if they have then been granted the authority to draft their own regulations, but then draft a regulation that is overly broad and encompassing beyond the original intent of the legislator? How would that work?
All right, so if you're saying that it's all right, so there are different levels. All right, so first you have the Administrative Procedures Act. That's the main law that applies to all administrative agencies in the United States. So let me see, pardon me if I'm wrong. All right, so the Administrative Procedures Act applies to all agencies. Now, if you want to challenge it at that level, that's the top level, you would say that the FTC didn't follow some procedure that they had to follow based on the Administrative Procedures Act. That's the main law. That's one thing. But if they put the rule through notice and comment rulemaking, then you really have no shot. The second level you can challenge it is based on the enabling statute, the statute that Congress passed that gives them the authority to do that. You can then challenge that and say, well, the FTC went outside that authority that Congress gave them, and that's called the Chevron deference. So there's a test, Chevron test. So when you go through Chevron, and you go through that 3-step process, again, it'll be, did Congress intend for them to legislate this? Because in Chevron, for the enabling statute, you're really asking, did Congress give them the authority to do that, or did they step outside that authority? And then if you still have a no there and they pass the regulation, then you can say, well, the regulation is just overly broad or arbitrary and capricious. And then you have the hour deference. And again, in all these times, they're going to side with the agent, more likely side with the agency, unless you can show that they really, really went outside of bounds. But there's one piece where you can challenge, which is interesting, is that let's say what they have, like now they have guidance documents. Now, these are documents that the FTC produces that tells us how the law works in this particular area. Like if you go on their website, they'll say, well, this is what you should look for the factors. Those are guidance documents, how to be in compliance with the regulation. So the interesting point is that for those guidance documents, it's called Mead Skidmore respect. So those something you can challenge because the court doesn't give that deference, but it does give the regulation and the statutes more deference.
On civil law, I'm not going to say the word. He wants Chevron to "the" in a fire. These were new legal concepts for me, but okay, that's crazy. So I mean, they grant the authority. There's call it a Q&A period where once it gets past that, they then legislate or approve the regulation that they have been authorized to draft for themselves.
Yep.
Once they start rendering decisions based on the legislation that they've drafted and approved for themselves, the override factor is going to be the our decision, which is, is it arbitrary and capricious or is that
yes, is it arbitrary and capricious? There's a little bit more to it, but that's what you're looking for. Were they being arbitrary and capricious?
Okay, so like, is the decision a manifest patent injustice, totally untenable, even under the spirit of the regulation that they validly drafted and passed themselves? This is
a high standard.
This is I now will judge everyone who was making fun of Canada for our administrative state, because this is the exact same thing that we have. Hold on, I'm going to put back on mute because I hear a kid coming. Yes? Okay, I don't know what he said, but I'm going to read this question here. Do you think the FTC and or YouTube will err on the side of the channel in gray areas?
Well, you know what? It's interesting because from everything I'm seeing, if you're like a 50-50, we don't know kind of, that's something I think is less likely to get you fined. I'm thinking they're looking for the obvious kid channel stuff, because every case that I've seen that the FTC has put, and I've been looking up these cases, all of them have been like very, very obvious cases. We were talking about LAI before, and this Retro Dreamer. You guys should really look at this because they really, really, really show you like these are obvious cases where these people were violating regulation. We got a super chat.
We got a super on civil law. We got Kim Wolf. No, that's what we just had.
That's the one just had. So yeah.
This video right now, the FTC is going to claim is child directed. You're live on the internet for 188 people to see right now. Okay, maybe you should go back to mom. So Nate, okay, we should actually go back to the beginning before we do this because. Go. No. So let's start from the beginning now. So the FTC has implemented these new rules. I mean, for everybody who's here, they already know what's going on, but the FTC has these new rules, which is that they are YouTube. Well, you want to summarize the YouTube settlements so that we know where we are at, and then we can get into the actual substance.
All right. First, let me answer the super chat real quick. Can you be criminally charged with breaking administrative law, or would it be a crime as a result of refusing to pay the fine? Well, possibly yes, because like for instance, the FTC will take you to court civilly, and if you get a civil judgment against you, it'll just like any civil judgment. You don't pay. You could be there are penalties for not paying civil judgments, and I think the federal government is going to try to enforce it. And there could be some criminal penalties, but but not in the administrative piece of it. The administrative piece of it generally is not criminal in that sense, but it could be. So, but it's a more complicated question. But generally, in this case, you're not really looking for criminal sanctions. You're really looking for civil sanctions. That's why all the cases that we've been pulling up are all civil in nature.
Well, I guess to answer the question, it wouldn't be a criminal penalty, but it might entail imprisonment for failure to respect a civil judgment, where you could be held in contempt. In theory, I guess you have the same principle in the States. You don't jail people for civil monetary fines.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you do. It all depends on which state. You can, because some states do. But generally no. These are civil penalties.
Okay. And so essentially everybody knows what happened, but YouTube got fined for collecting data for the purposes of targeted ads, and then the FTC files a complaint, has all the information about how they were harvesting data on an individual basis to then target ads on an individual basis. They were purporting to be able to sell ads targeting children age 6 to 11. And so in their settlement, they say, we are going to implement a system that will allow for the identification of videos that are directed at children so that we know not to gather data from those videos. And that's when they got into implementing this new system of child-directed versus not child-directed, the strict dichotomy. The FTC in their presser in September says, in implementing this new system, we're still going to go after YouTube, but we're going to go after the fish in the barrel theory. So we're going to go after YouTube. And if we have to go after individuals at the same time, we're going to do it. And we can, or they basically said, we reserve the right, or we will maybe sue the individual channels for child-directed content, not for the harvesting of the data part, but rather for just creating child-directed content that YouTube might then harvest data from in violation of COPPA.
Now, yes. Accurate. Very, very, very accurate. But I just want to put just one extra layer on it, is that there are two players here that the FTC is going to look for enforcement. First, the platform of YouTube. YouTube is the in-between. You upload content to YouTube, and YouTube serves it to millions of people, right? That's generally the way it works. So what happens is YouTube gets 200 hours of content per minute, right? Something like that. So there's no way humanly possible they can go through all that content to check if it's child-directed. So the law, COPPA, as written, says that as a platform, as this website is a platform, they would have to have actual knowledge that the content is child-directed for them to be held liable. So in this particular case, the government had enough evidence to show that YouTube had actual knowledge that there was child-directed content from channels like the Mother Goose Club, Ryan's Toys, where, you know, the channel descriptions all said they put those channels on YouTube's kids and said they were family friendly. So the FTC was actually able to show that YouTube had actual knowledge that they had kids-directed content and was still collecting data on it. So YouTube was busted for that. Go ahead. And
just to stop you there, not only they had actual knowledge, but they were apparently from the complaint, they were boasting their actual knowledge and saying, look, we target kids age 6 to 11 very effectively. It's one of our selling features. So they were busted with like the actual knowledge, the intent, and all sorts of things. And the way they settled the way they quickly settled the claim was to say, okay, well, we won't harvest data from the kids directed content, but in order to do that, we're going to put the onus on the creators to identify what is kids directed content so that we as a platform know not to collect data from it.
Yes. But so now what happens is that YouTube has, the reason why YouTube has now put this checkbox there is so it's more or less giving them no liability, because now by asking the content director straight up, hey, is this child directed or not? If you check yes or you check no, that's absolved YouTube of any liability. So now YouTube can say, well, hold on. They checked the box and said it wasn't child directed content. So we didn't have any actual knowledge. We asked them and they said no. So that's how YouTube is kind of getting themselves out from behind the box. But now the FTC is going after the content creator because they're saying, okay, well, you're uploading the content. And you know your content, you know the content. So if it's child directed, then we don't have to prove that you had actual knowledge that your content was child directed. Since you uploaded, we're going to hold you strictly liable. So what that means is that there's no, we don't have to go through the whole process of trying to prove that you intended to do it, because you uploaded it, it's your content, and you knew it was child directed. Then you're going to be strictly liable for the fine.
Okay, and now we've had this discussion before, and we've discussed this. To the best of our knowledge, and if anyone knows better, correct without insulting, the FTC has never held an actual YouTube channel liable for producing child-directed content as of yet. The entire basis,
not that we know, yeah,
not that we know. And if anybody knows, let us know, because I looked it up. Nate knows more than me, and I spent too much time looking this stuff up. To the best of our knowledge, the basis for going after the YouTube channels as separate entities or distinct entities comes from the Dreamers. What was it called?
Retro Dreamers and LAI.
Where they went after the app designers who designed apps and then sold them on Google Play, Amazon, and Apple. And they said that you're designing apps directed at children. You knew darn well, because it was in the terms of service, that Google, Amazon, and Apple were going to collect data and make directed marketing for the individuals downloading your app. You knew it was child-directed. You knew they were collecting child-directed content, and therefore they fined them $300,000, $60,000, and it's from that legal precedent that the argument by analogy goes to content creators on YouTube saying, you make child-directed content, you know that YouTube is going to be gathering the data from that child-directed content. So if you don't let them know, we're going to potentially go after you by analogy.
Yes. Because two things. I'm going to screen share the FTC's, the update that they just put on to show to directly say exactly why content creators they're going after content creators. But particularly for those two cases, exactly what you're saying, it's the same process. We give we give Google a file, and that file happens to be a video file that they share. And for us to make money, they put ads on that content, and that's how we make money. And the same thing with the app, the two app companies. They give them the file, which is the app, and Google actually places ads on the apps, and that's how the app companies get money. So they're saying instead of us having videos, they're just instead of us placing apps, instead of us making apps, we're making videos. So it's the same process, the same thing, except just the content is different. So that's why they're holding. They're legally, the legal precedent is holding them liable for the apps and us liable for the videos. But
this explains, incidentally, why YouTube is changing their terms of service and creating now. We've all seen the one-liner in a number of the summary videos. You are legally responsible for the content you put up, because I suspect, I don't know, but I'm pretty certain that with the LAI and the Retro Dreamers, it was already in Amazon apps terms of service. It says you're responsible for the content you put up and you have to let us know. I suspect it was already in there and that they had advanced warning, but in YouTube, it wasn't actually particularly specified. So like they couldn't pass the buck that quickly onto the users. Now what they're going to say is, when you upload content, you're legally responsible to let us know so that we can then pass the buck on to you if and when we get sued because we were inadvertently collecting data from child-directed content because you didn't flag it as such for us to know.
But they'll be legally protected because don't forget, they would have to have actual knowledge. And by asking you and you saying no, that's the first thing they can say. We did not have actual knowledge.
Look what I can do here, Nate. I can bring this up. Wow, this is cool.
All right, so this is now up on the FTC's website, and this is for us as channel. This is one of the guidance documents they've put forward, telling us why this regulation of COPPA is applying to us as channel owners for YouTube. So it says, how does COPPA apply to channel owners who upload their content on YouTube or third-party platforms? This is now, again, another big myth out there is that you see a lot of people saying, well, we're not going to be putting our stuff on YouTube anymore. We're going to Twitch. You're going to this. Well, guess what? They're going to go, this is something that's US wide. So if you go to Twitch, they're going to have to deal with this too. If you go to Facebook, they're going to have to deal with this too. This is a law. So you can't just go to another platform and think you're safe. It's going to affect everybody. It's just YouTube is just hot right now.
Well, and incidentally, that was a question someone had asked earlier. Like, is it YouTube specific? What about other platforms? In theory, it may already be in the terms of service of other live streaming platforms that if you upload child-directed content, you have to let us know. They might already have provisions to be COPPA compliant that we just haven't addressed yet. It's that YouTube didn't have it, got busted, entered into the settlement, and YouTube is just the biggest platform, so it's hitting the fan for YouTube. But this does apply. It could apply to your own lone website that you have minimal traffic on. It's anything on the internet this applies to.
Yes. But now, so here's this. COPPA applies in the same way it would if the channel owner had its own website or app. Now, obviously, they're saying app because we were talking about the app situation. If a channel owner uploads content to a platform like YouTube, the channel might meet the definition of website or online service covered by COPPA, depending on the nature of the content and the information collected. If the content is directed at children, and if the channel owner or someone on their behalf, i.e., YouTube, collects personal information from viewers of that content, for example, through persistent identifiers that track users, the interest-based ads, the channel is covered by COPPA. Once COPPA applies, the operator must provide notice, obtain verifiable parental consent, and meet other COPPA requirements. So this is them saying, we're treating you just like when they sued the app companies, we're treating you like these app companies. And the funny thing is that if you, I think there's a link here somewhere where if you click on it, they actually take you to one of the app companies who were sued so you can see like this is the type of things that we're going to be looking for. So
now I'm trying to think of a question that someone had just asked. Let me just read through this again. The channel is covered by COPPA. Once COPPA applies, the operator must provide notice. Okay, sorry. Now I just refreshed my own memory. I mean, not a question I ran by you previously, but what is the rule? Like, why is it not sufficient to say if you open up a YouTube channel, you have to be at least 13 years of age to bypass all of this?
All right, so two things. Number one, you don't have to be signed into YouTube to watch any videos, right? And also the cookies, for instance, don't work based on if you're signed in. So for instance, let's say I never have a YouTube page. I never have an account. I can still go to YouTube and watch as many videos as I want. And since I'll allow cookies to be downloaded here on my computer, then that, because every time I go back to YouTube, it will still collect my data. And if I'm just watching child-directed content, or if I'm just a child, then it would apply to me. So me signing in, unless YouTube can fix that problem by only allowing people to watch videos if you're signed in. But how much money would they lose from advertising if they do that? That's a money issue at that point in time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
How many people watch YouTube who don't have accounts?
Okay, that's very interesting. And that's another thing is everybody's saying, it's not fair to the creators. And this is not to play devil's advocate, because I think there's probably an easier solution to all of this. But everyone's saying it's not fair to the creators. It's YouTube collecting the data. And then the issue there is like with LAI and with Retro Dreamers. Hold on, let me just back out of here. How do we do this here? With LAI and Retro Dreamers, the whole issue is, it's the apps that are collecting the data, but it was the targeted ads that was the money generator for the apps themselves. They were free apps. The only way they got paid was from the targeted ads directed at the users or the downloaders of the app. So on YouTube, it's true. Like it's YouTube collecting the data. Not even in theory. The only reason YouTube is collecting that data and harvesting that data is so they can sell more targeted ads so that the creators can then make a little money on their channel, albeit YouTube makes more. Sorry. But it is sort of like, it's not, initially I said, okay, well, YouTube is the one that got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. But the reason why their hand is in the cookie jar might be to get 80% of the cookie, but it's so that they can also give you 20% of the cookie. And now the idea is like, okay, well, we're all going to get punished if we have to flag our videos as targeted children. True. But then, YouTube themselves loses 80% of the cookie as well. So it was sort of this symbiotic relationship where everybody's making money, albeit some people more than others. But it's not like we can say, well, we're just making content and we have nothing to do with what YouTube does, because we're making content to sell it, via ad space, even if YouTube sells it for a little more. So that's the rationale. Is it's not quite as easy as saying we're not collecting the data. It has nothing to do with us. We're making videos so that we can then get paid AdSense revenue based on the targeted ads, which sell for 80% more than the contextual ads.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I know a lot of people, it's the first thing you hear a lot of people say is, well, hey, I don't collect data. I don't, the data isn't collected by me. Why am I being punished for it? Well, but because, number one, most people don't read the terms of service, because first you have to read the terms of service, then you read the Google terms of service, because it's funny because in YouTube terms of service, it tells you also have to agree to Google terms of service, and then when you Google terms of service, then you can look in there and look in the cookies and it'll tell you, we're collecting this data so we can do targeted ads, blah, blah, blah. And when you sign up for AdSense, it also tells you the same thing. So in other words, they're saying, well, that we're going to collect ads on this content. And if you know that these ads are being collected on your behalf, so we can do this, so we can give you this money, then if you have child-directed content, that's illegal, and that's why we're going to hold you responsible.
Okay, very interesting. And so someone imposed format. It's funny, I read that as imposed format. Surely existing content is a major issue with the new rules. Does YouTube plan on getting creators to flag existing content to comply with COPPA? Yes. I mean, the idea is now, it's crazy because for people who for myself and take PewDiePie, who's got 5,000 videos, I've got 1,500 videos. They need to go back now and either flag the channel as a whole or clear the channel as a whole. For people who have really mixed content from beginning to now, it'll be an issue. I mean, I don't want to say I'm taking any risks. If I presume the AI, the algorithm, is going to false positive a lot more content than I would flag as positive myself. So I'm waiting for that to happen, and I'm probably not going to contest it because the videos that I've got from 2 years ago have zero traffic in any event. It's nothing that I care about. And I think it's sort of the same thing even for PewDiePie. The videos that he put up like 4 years ago of Fortnite, they probably got their 40 million views now, and they probably have minimal traffic at the current date. But the idea is they are going to go back. I don't think they're going to be issuing $40,000 fines per videos from 5 years ago that are maybe not compliant. But I think the Google AI is going to round up a lot more. It's going to overestimate what it rounds up as opposed to underestimate. So,
but not to cut you off, the FTC did say in their press conference that there is no exemption for past conduct. Like since 2013 till now, if you were collecting data on that content and you had child-directed content, they can go back and hold you liable for that content back in the day. So this isn't an exemption. They're not saying we're only starting from January 1st, 2020 moving forward. They're saying we just haven't looked at that yet, but we're really focusing on going forward, not going backwards. So
absolutely. And hold on, what was I just about to say? There's not only no exemption, it's gonna be included, but I think once YouTube implements whatever AI that they're going to implement to flag, obviously, or what I forgot the woman said, but she said content clearly directed to children. They are going to err on the side of caution, and they're gonna sweep up a ton of content. Yeah, and I would say, I'll venture a guess that 30% of it is not going to be child-directed content, but it's going to get swept up in the AI, and then people are just going to have to go back and this video was not actually totally not child-directed content, and override the AI that automatically flagged it. So it's not that I'm relying on that. Personally, I'm not so fearful about these massive fines. I do suspect a lot of content is going to get swept up in the AI retroactive sort of analysis, that it will cover more than it excludes, but it is going to be retroactive for sure. It's going to apply to everything on the platform. Nate, you did a video on this, so you can be best to summarize what's the operational definition of child-directed from John Smith. Thank you very much.
All right, so here let me pull this up. So what they look at are factors. Now these factors are actually found in the law. Let me screen share this so you guys can see it. 1 second. Technical difficulties.
And remind me, I'm going to get to Tom's question afterwards. Let's see here. Depends on how Fortnite is presented. This is a multifaceted test. Yeah, okay, sorry. That's another answer, another question. Let me know, Nate, when you get it up.
Oh, hold on. Sure.
And then we got Viva. What about channels that are basically inactive? People who haven't uploaded videos for 5 years. That's another very interesting question. Like, I mean, first of all, the one thing that I've always had this thought is when you have like a substantial amount of subscribers, it's very realistic. I haven't seen comments from people in a long time, and it's very plausible that people have actually passed away. Like, what about channels where the owners have passed away and the FTC, in theory, comes in and starts issuing fines and says, all right, well, now it's the estate of the deceased of this channel who has to pay for fines for child-directed content that wasn't flagged as child-directed because they've been passed away for a decade. I mean, there's so many possibilities. But this is why, like, these are not the issues that the FTC is actually going to start delving into, because they will just keep it busy without any revenue. They're going to go after the repeat violators, the ones who have gotten warnings to take down their videos, to implement into systems and haven't done it. And incidentally, Nate, this is Nate's knowledge, not mine. In Retro Dreamers, LAI got fined $30,000 and
60. They got 60, and the other one's 300.
300. And the Retro Dreamers got 300 because they were repeatedly warned that they were violating the terms of COPPA and didn't do anything to remedy that violation. So, not to defend the FTC, because the administrative state is like the Blob. If anyone's seen that movie, it continually grows. But they did issue warnings prior to issuing the fine and coercing a settlement.
Yeah.
Okay, now hold on. What question we were asking? We were answering this one.
Yeah, about I screenshot my thing.
Wonderful.
So small. But so I put a chart up, and this chart has the 9 factors that they look at. At first, is the subject matter of the video, and if you go to the guidance documents, they talk about is the subject matter directed at pre-K alphabets or something like that. The subject matter, the visual content. Whether you use animated characters or anything that's child-orientated activities or incentives, the music and audio content, the age of the models, the presence of child celebrities, or a subject that appeal to kids, the language and other characteristics, advertising and promotional videos, and then the last thing they look at is audience composition. Who's actually watching this stuff and who is the intended audience. Now, so when you look at these factors, you have to weigh them, and you have to kind of see, look at them all together and see, well, does all of these factors lead me to say that this is child directed? Now, you could have the situation where which you see a lot of the doom and gloom and fear now, is that someone say, well, hey, my content is animated, but it's animated for adults. Well, if that's true, then it's less likely you're going to have a problem just because your stuff is animated, like Adult Swim or The Simpsons or any of those raunchy cartoons out there. Then yeah, just because it's animated doesn't mean it's child directed, or just because you had a kid in your video doesn't mean it's child directed. You have to look at all these factors and kind of weigh them to see if it's fair to say that your content is child directed or not.
Hold on. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Audience composition is a very interesting thing, because like for the Jake Pauls who know their content may be potentially mixed on its face, but they know darn well who their demographic is based if only on the YouTube demographic analysis. I've never actually noticed this. Does YouTube tell you if your demographic is, do they tell you what your demographic is below the age of 13? Because I know 65% of my demographic is aged 18 to 44, but I've never actually looked below age 13. So below age 13, what does YouTube tell you in terms of the breakdown of your demographic?
Well, I looked at mine the other day, and it goes 13 and up. Like, it doesn't go under 13. And that's probably because they do that based on their accounts. If somebody has an account and they're signed in, then they may do that on their accounts. I don't think they could just do that off. I'm assuming that's what they do. But with Jake Paul, for instance, he said his intended audience is children from 8 to something, right? So, so he made an admission that, yeah, that is his contact.
Well, but so he could make the admission, but if his actual channel demographics shows that he's majority 65% 18 to 44, like YouTube has actual demographics, so he could have made an admission that was actually factually incorrect, and that's just based on his own presupposition. But I suspect he knows what his actual demographics are quite scientifically.
Well, there was one thing that was it in the press conference about let's say the demographics say everybody's 99 years old, right? And it was saying, well, it's not about for that, it's not about the demographics of what account is actually watching that video, because you have mixed use items. Like my phone, for instance, I give it to my daughter. I'm still signed in, but she's watching, the Royalty Family and all those child directed stuff that she likes, Baby Shark. Even though it's going to say there's a 40-year-old man watching Baby Shark, and their demographic is going to say 40-year-old man, you have you're spiked at 40. It's not a 40-year-old. It's a 4-year-old watching it under my account on the 40-year-old's device. So that could be skewed.
This is how Nate tries to walk himself out of watching Baby Shark.
Hours and hours of Baby Shark. Just literally, oh my God.
So, okay, Greg Wycliffe says, I appreciate the optimism, but can you guys speculate on how bad it could potentially be? I would say, how bad in what respect do you mean? I don't think the FTC is going to be running around. So I'll just bring it back up. I don't think the FTC is going to be running around throwing around $10,000 fines on content creators. I think as bad as it's going to be is going to be YouTube deactivating or penalizing the channels by deactivating features. And that's just going to push them to another platform. Okay, first of all, Nate, I mean, the question comes up, why didn't YouTube Kids solve all this problem?
Well, YouTube Kids, I think it could have solved the problem. Actually, YouTube Kids got YouTube into more trouble, because what YouTube did was saying, okay, we're gonna do YouTube Kids, right? So YouTube, now this is where YouTube got in trouble with the actual knowledge. So you had YouTube's Kids, and YouTube went to the regular platform and said, okay, and they started identifying all this content for YouTube's Kids. So they were like, oh, this is content for YouTube's Kids, and put all that content on YouTube's Kids. And the FTC was able to use that and said, you absolutely knew that this content was for kids, because not only did you put it on YouTube's Kids and promoted it for kids, you left it on the regular platform and still collected that same data. So obviously, not only did you know it was for kids, you promoted it as kids, and you put it on the kids platform. So what happens is that the YouTube's Kids doesn't solve the problem, because it is about the content and where the content will be found. If a kid logs on to YouTube, through a parent's account, and there's videos out there for those kids that are not on YouTube, if they're on YouTube, then they have to be consistent with the law as it is now. YouTube's Kids isn't an out. If they just took all that content and just put it on YouTube's Kids, then maybe you'd have an argument. But since the content is on both YouTube's Kids and still on the YouTube main platform, then you don't. Then there's you're still violating the law on the YouTube platform because that content is still there.
Okay, that is a phenomenally clear explanation, because I didn't appreciate that YouTube Kids, the content was both on YouTube and YouTube Kids, so they're presumably still collecting the data on YouTube as YouTube, unless it's been flagged as such, while having it on YouTube Kids and specifically acknowledging that it's for kids.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
That's a problem. It seems that if it's on YouTube Kids, it should be straight up pulled from YouTube. How bad? So getting back to the question, how bad can it get? It's just going to punish the creators. I don't think people are going to be getting $1 million fines. I just think that people are going to be shutting down the creation of content for kids. And the other reality, we'll see how it pans out. I don't think the FTC is going to go after the content creators as any sort of default recourse. I think they're going to go after YouTube. What's going to end up happening is if YouTube gets pursued by the FTC, they're going to call in warranty. I don't know what you call it in the States. They're going to call in warranty, or the call as a defendant in, what do they call it in the States? They're going to call in the channel and say, look, the channel's responsible because they signed on for the terms of service. And if the FTC finds us anything, the content creator should pay it because they knew the terms of service as of January 1st, 2020, and they agreed to it.
Yes, and now that YouTube says now that if you upload a video, you're legally responsible for the content. YouTube is putting all the onus on you as a content creator. But can you share my screen once, because I want to show people about the fines.
I'm going to come back to Shirley Greer in a second.
Yeah, and then we have a super chat. All right, so about the fines, it says right here, the rule allows. I'll highlight this so people know what I'm talking about. The rule allows for civil penalties up to $42,530 per violation, but the FTC considers a number of factors in determining the appropriate amount, including the company's financial condition and the impact of the penalty can have on its ability to stay in business. So these fines aren't meant to put people out of business. It's just meant to hurt. While Google and YouTube paid $170 million, in other COPPA cases settled this year, the operator paid a total civil penalty of $35,000. Now, when you click on this, it actually goes to one of the cases, and that case was two commercial websites that did the same thing. So, so they're really saying, we're not looking to put you out of business, but the penalty will hurt. And for YouTube, it's $170 million, which is really a drop in the bucket for them. And for somebody like Retro Dreamer or these other companies, they're making millions of dollars, but we're going to hit them with $60,000 fine or $300,000 fine. Again, Retro Dreamer is still in business. You can still download their apps now.
You figure 2 days profit. If that's the measure, I don't know what 2 days profits for me would be, but it wouldn't be. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be, even with the $35,000 and with the Retro Dreamers and the LAI. I mean, yeah, it's big numbers, 60,000 and 300,000, but you don't know what their yearly revenues were as a result of the apps that they were designing.
Yeah, and Retro Dreamer is still in business too. So go ahead.
Okay, first of all, Shirley Gear, is that MX? What currency is that? I want to say. I don't even want to say what I think it is because I don't want to seem stupid. If anybody knows what currency that is, first of all, thank you very much. How will this affect crafting and cooking channels?
It says Mexican currency.
That's what I was going to say, but I don't want to look stupid and say something like maximum currency. Crafting and cooking channels. So this gets us into the it's been going up. It's been discussed for a long time, but the mixed audience, which is oddly enough MX also, but the mixed audience distinction, which as far as I'm concerned is not an actual material distinction. It lends for discussion as to why YouTube didn't have that category. But my theory is that the mixed audience is an exception to the underage audience. So it's actually just part and parcel of the above 13, but it would have allowed for a separate category of flagging videos, which I presume crafting and cooking would fit into. So
I think crafting and cooking videos, listen, unless it's really child directed, if you got children cooking and teaching kids, like you got to go through those factors and really determine if it's directed at children or not. I think that's what you really need to do. And again, if you want to check out my video or even go to the FTC's webpage and look at the factors, they really lay them out. And if you satisfy a lot of those factors, then you have to make the determination on your own. The second, hold on, what did you just say? I just forgot because I was answering that question. What did you just end on? What's your point just now?
Mixed audience.
Yes. All right. So about mixed audiences. The problem with mixed audiences for YouTube, I think now again, this is not from anything. This is my pontificating about what I believe. But I think YouTube didn't add the mixed audience to this thing. It's because by having a mixed audience, that would allow them to still be liable through this whole actual knowledge. Because right now, YouTube is saying, the way YouTube is set up is that they've just got totally out, like they can't be held liable for COPPA at all. Because by asking each individual channel owner for each individual video, whether it's child directed or not, they've totally got themselves out of the whole COPPA business. They can say, well, we had no actual knowledge because the person actually lied to us. So the FTC can't find them again. But if you did have this mixed audience problem thing, then you could have the situation where somebody's labeled it mixed audience. The FTC comes and says it's directed at children. They can go to YouTube and say, hey, you knew that this was directed at children. Look at the content. They told you it was direct, and then you can have the same situation where they can be fined again. So I think this was a liability thing where YouTube is saying, well, listen, we don't want to deal with mixed audience. It's either it's child directed or not. And if you answer the question wrong, then it's on you and not on us.
Well, but that's my feeling, is that even if you have the mixed audience, it still is child directed or not, because the mixed audience is only an exception to the child directed, which brings you back into the non-child directed content, where if the FTC comes down and says they pick on a channel, or the AI flags a channel and it gives it, and hypothetically gets a fine or it gets booted from the platform, and then they say, well, no, it's not actually child directed, it's mixed audience and therefore not child directed, that would be the exception. But in reality, even if it's mixed audience, that just means it's not child directed. So there really are only two categories.
Yeah. Well, but I'm thinking that the fear is that YouTube wants to get out of the liability of this thing at all. And the best way to do it is just by having you say, is it child directed or not? Because by you answering that question, yes or no, removes the whole knowledge factor from them. So they don't have to worry about it. With the mixed audience option, now you still got to worry about, well, is this obviously child directed? And then, and did YouTube know, or could they have known, or should they have known? And if I'm YouTube's lawyer, I'm like, we don't even want to answer those questions. Just ask him, is it child directed or not? And let's get out of that business. You know what I mean?
And again, like let me look in the camera. No legal advice. My own thinking is that if I believe a video of mine is mixed audience, I'm flagging it as not child directed. And if I get in trouble for it, I'll argue it later. But I mean, that's my rationale, where I don't make kids videos or cooking. I don't make things that are directed at children in any way. So even if I think it might be mixed audience, because I think of one video I made, which was turning a kid's toy into a dog toy for my dog. Mm-hmm. In theory, kids might find it interesting. I don't think anybody would, but I'm going to flag it as adults because I believe it's mixed audience and therefore not directed at children. And if I have an issue, I'll take it up with the FTC if and when. I don't think that that's going to be the bulk of what the FTC is going to dedicate their resources to. These, odds and end videos that might be mixed audience or child versus adult. They're going to go after the people who are knowingly having children directed channels. I don't want to say like what's Evan's Toys? The kid who wanted
Ryan's Toys.
But then the reality is, what's going to happen to the Ryan's Toys type channels? I mean, they're going to take a hit on the AdSense revenue, but by and large, I suspect that they were getting a ton of revenue, not from the AdSense, but from sponsored videos, sponsored products in the first place, where they don't really give a sweet bugger all about the AdSense. Mm-hmm. My sense, I might be wrong.
Well, I think you're right. But I think if you're getting millions and millions of views on every video, that's a nice chunk of change. That's going to hurt their bottom line. That's definitely going to hurt their bottom line. Because I know, like, even some of I know Jake Paul's in his videos, he sells a lot of merchandise. So I think, even though the AdSense is going to hurt, maybe he can still get the merchandise, but then there's even issues with that. So I think that when it comes down to it, this is going to be a financial hit, but I think it's really going to affect those medium-sized channels, the channels who, you're making a living every day doing this, with your Lego sets or whatever, and trying to determine if it's child-directed or not. By pressing that it is, then you're really cutting down a lot of your revenue, and that's the sad part about it.
So hold on. Kyle Nova just said, could YouTube not get out of this by changing the platform to you need an account to view the platform? Yes, they could, and Nate had mentioned it earlier, but then that would cut into a ton of their revenue, because they target ads not just to users, but rather to random viewers who they happen to track via cookies as well. So it's interesting. I never even thought of that on a personal level. I mean, I never thought of that, actually. Could they stop targeted ads by making children's accounts like an accounts for children? Same answer. The bottom line is they have a ton of people who view YouTube who don't have accounts and who are not logged in. And if they do that, if they make you log in to watch videos, they might cut traffic by, I don't know, I don't even have any ideas, but they would cut a ton of traffic of people who don't have accounts but watch YouTube videos. and could potentially be affected.
It's interesting, and this there was the adult entertainment sites. It was interesting because when I was doing research for this,
what are these adult entertainment? I've never heard of these things. I don't get away from there.
It's big in the Bible Belt here in the United States. But one thing though, it was interesting because at first, to view that content on those sites, you had to be logged in. Like you had to actually go through the process of logging in, giving like a credit card, like verifying that you were an adult. And when they stopped doing that and just said, well, hey, anybody who comes to the site can view the content without signing in. And they still track data, whatever. But they saw a tremendous growth in just viewership because, people I forgot what it was, like 60 or 70% of people who were viewing their stuff didn't have accounts. So that was kind of the same process. And then I think YouTube is the exact opposite. Where you have a lot of people who want to interact with the content creators, they'll get an account. But the huge, probably, you're talking about the majority of people who just, maybe go onto any type of computer, a mixed use phone or something like that, and view the content, then, you don't have to sign in. And that, the advertisers don't care more about getting eyes to their products and to their advertisement than, and if YouTube cuts that by 50%, then they're just cutting into their own revenue stream. So,
well, okay, so this is very interesting. Now, I had never even thought about this, but if and when you go to adult websites, they may collect data, but they don't run targeted ads, I presume, on people visiting the site. They just run, what are the contextualized ads? You're on an adult website, so we're going to run adult ads, and they're not directed towards the individual viewer based on their patterns, but just based on the viewer on the website that they're on.
Yeah, probably because it's probably a niche thing where, if I'm going to the NRA website, and they're going to feed me with a whole bunch of their NRA stuff because they're saying that, this is so niche that you're here because of the guns, and if you're to that website, you're there because of that. So maybe you don't need the contextualized ads because you're trying to sell a service. But the thing is that but I think they've expanded traffic because now you don't have to log in. You can just go and watch it, and children could go watch this thing too, obviously.
Well, so that's the thing is that in theory, anybody can go to an adult website and watch the stuff. The only issue why they wouldn't be in violation of COPPA is that they're not gathering data to run targeted ads based on that viewer's search history on that website.
No, because it's not child-directed content.
Well, it's not child-directed. It's not child-directed content.
So it's not child-directed content. You can collect whatever you want. It's not child-directed content. Remember, this is only for even if children were to go watching that stuff, it wouldn't matter because the content is not directed at children under the age of 13.
Very interesting. Okay, that's very cool. Viva Frei, do people in Europe have a lesser chance of being fined because it's outside of America? Okay, this is a question I'm getting a lot. Like, what's the jurisdiction of the FTC?
Well, the FTC is only in the United States, but the problem is that based on the settlement, YouTube is coming down on the content creators who are outside the country because YouTube is an American company. So that means your channels can get, and YouTube even said, if you're violating or misdoing, misidentifying your thing, they're going to shut down your channel. They're going to block, there's going to be horrible consequences for channel owners outside the United States because it's not going to be the FTC bringing lawsuits against you. It's going to be YouTube backed by the FTC closing down your stuff and shutting you off from the platform. So it may be, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
So yeah, that's what I've been answering is like, it doesn't matter what the FTC does. YouTube can still shut you down for terms of service violation. Does the FTC, I mean, I don't know if you know this, do they have international, can they issue a fine to anyone who has without assets in the States?
I'm assuming no. I'm assuming jurisdictional issue. No, if you're in, let's say, in Germany again, but this is just me pontificating. This is not legal advice. I don't know, but I'm assuming that based on the jurisdictional stuff that I learned in law school, is that the FTC's authority just extends to the United States and things in the United States. So if you're in some other country, I don't think the FTC can fine you because where would they would take you to? Let's say if you were in in Russia, and they're going to take you to a Russian court and fine you for violating American law.
No, well, the only thing I can imagine, reasonably envision, is if you have bank accounts in the U.S., they can issue fines and seize assets in the States. But like I was saying, like the biggest concern is not going to be the FTC issuing a $500 fine to a Canadian. It's going to be YouTube shutting down the Canadian's account because they don't even want to get into the issue of getting fined by the FTC in the States for what the Canadian is doing with his or her accounts. So, I mean, that's where I think the real issue is going to be. It's not the fines per se for international jurisdiction. It's just going to be YouTube shutting down the channels for breaching of the terms of service, because YouTube doesn't want to get a fine in the States for what somebody's doing in Russia.
Like, and just imagine, like, think about this. Let's say if you're in Russia and you were putting up child-directed content, and YouTube knew you were putting up child-directed content. YouTube is the only person that has a liability in that case. Because the FTC can't go after the person in Russia; they can go after YouTube. So I think you're right. I think YouTube is saying, "Oh, hey, we don't want to get into that business. Your channel's going to be shut down," and they're probably going to be coming down hard on these people.
Yeah.
So,
and incidentally, so I mean, what that means to say in a nutshell, YouTube can probably YouTube can get fined by the FTC for child-directed content violations by a Russian channel. The FTC might not be able to issue fines against the Russian channel, but they'll issue fines against YouTube for the violations of that Russian channel. YouTube is just going to say, before I even get the fine from the FTC, I'm going to shut down that Russian channel or the Canadian channel or the French channel if they're systematically mismarking the videos based on our AI, because we don't want to get the fine by the FTC in the first place. That's the real risk.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell it. Let's see. Other than, okay, again, a dog's breakfast. What a mess. Hold on. Where did that just go? I saw that here. Yeah, there's gonna be I didn't live through the last adpocalypse or the first adpocalypse in any meaningful way. There's going to be some serious restabilizing of what's going on, and I think there might just be a real refocusing on the YouTube kids and just get it all off YouTube. But then even the question is, go to YouTube kids. How are you going to make the money off the AdSense revenue if they're not allowed collecting the data? It's going to be YouTube kids. Maybe you're going to have a greater value for the contextualized ads on YouTube kids, but you're not going to have the premium for targeted ads on YouTube kids because you just can't do it. So it's a dog's breakfast. It'll figure itself out. But every single video, first of all, I clicked on one video today. I don't know who the person was. They have a lot of subscribers, and it said $42,000 fine. I said I don't care. Got fined. They didn't get fined. Nobody got fined yet. Nobody got a $42,000 fine for a video. And I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just making a prediction. No one's going to get that maximum fine for their first violation, period. I mean, that's my bottom line. The real issue is not the $42,000 fine. It's just YouTube cutting off the lifeline to these channels, or these channels not surviving because they're losing their AdSense revenue. But they're going to have to focus on sponsored content, disclosed sponsored content. Incidentally, may I plug an upcoming video on sponsored content? It's my first video coming up soon. They're going to have to focus on sponsored content, disclosing it, going by the rules of the FTC as relates to what is the word? Not not false advertising, but rather whatever. You have to disclose your sponsorship.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, Nate.
Now I can't remember it now, but I know what you're saying, because you have to disclose whether it's free promotion.
These channels, they're going to lose on their AdSense revenue. It's fine. It might stabilize because I think there might just be more of a premium on highly contextualized ads as opposed to targeted ads when it comes to kids stuff. But they'll lose on that. They'll make up on the sponsorships, and that's going to be it.
Well, if you see, look what YouTube's doing now. For instance, they're removing demonetization. So YouTube is going forward and removing demonetization.
I've had my last 3 videos demonetized temporarily, and it pisses me off.
But they've come out with this new thing where what they're going to do is that, because obviously this is going to hurt them hard, because a lot of that watch time hours are from kids. So what they're doing is saying, well, we're going to start matching advertisers better with content. So if you have raunchy content, we're going to send raunchy ads to that raunchy content and contextualize it based on that, versus just demonetizing it all. Because if I got an R-rated movie, I don't mind it playing on something that's a little bit more passe than something that's not. So that's what YouTube is doing. So they're in the process now of removing demonetization. But I also think when it comes to kids content, that's going to become more valuable, because you're still going to have people wanting to sell their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to kids, and they're going to set it, and maybe the YouTube Kids is going to be the place where you do it, where instead of having targeted ads, you contextualize that, you put them on YouTube Kids. It's going to be more valuable because you're going to have a smaller market, smaller base, and more people wanting to advertise to that particular space. So it may just be a wash all in the end. Right now, I know it's tough because you're like, what's going to happen? But these children, especially now during Christmas time, they're going to want to see the G.I. Joe with the ninja grip, and the My Little Pony. So you're going to see that. So those ads are still going to be around. It's just now where they're going to be around and at what price point.
Okay, and now I'm going to get to the super chat from Six Silverman in 1 second. I just want to get this question because this is one I've been thinking of. What is the rationale about disabling features on the kids' contents, like the comment sections, the linking, the ads, the playlist, the bookmarking? Like, do you know what the rationale is?
Yes. All right. So first, so we're all on the same page. There are two levels of data that's going to be removed. So if you upload a video, and you just say my video is child directed, the comments aren't going to be there. You're going to lose the personalized ads we were talking about, the info cards and the end screens. Now, for comments, the FTC on its website, one of the things that they said was the reason why, for instance, with comments, they're afraid that you can have a child put up, hey, my name is Ashley from Grand Falls, Minnesota, and I love this video. That would be, and that's something that's the reason why you can't have, they want to stop that particular thing. So that's why comments were going to be removed from those particular videos, because, you don't want children interacting with the videos, putting their private information online. And that's, if you go to the FTC's website, that's actually there as an example.
That's ridiculous. My personal opinion.
I'll show it to you. Hold on, let me pull it up. But go ahead, finish.
No, that's. I did not know that was the superficiality. I thought they were gathering the data from the comment section to gather some sort of metadata, not just like out of fear of some kid who's 9 years old giving their cell phone number. Okay, that's okay.
Hold on.
No comment.
Let me screen share this just so people can see it. Show those receipts.
No. It's not coming out of nowhere. This is crazy. Okay.
No, this is. You're right. This is crazy, but this is on the FTC's website. Can you see my website? Can you see my?
Oh, hold on. At the screen. There we go. Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna go right to it. I'm gonna highlight it. You see where it says, for example, think of a comment like this on a child-directed site. My name is Mary Jones. I'm from Springfield, and I love this video. Yes.
Okay, but dude, first of all, they're
publicly available.
There are 15 Springfields in the States, and we know that from The Simpsons. Okay, so that's the rationale for disabling comments. Okay.
Well, but that's part. Yes, that's part of the rationale. But again, because they're saying that remember when we were talking about back in 1998, we had the evil man behind the computer. Give me your name, location, and all that stuff, and that's what they're trying to protect. So that's data, and that's data that would be collected because those comments are stored. So other things.
Play, watch later, share. Like, what's up with that?
I think those are because that's data that have to be stored. So again, you can't collect data because if you're putting them on save later and things of that nature, then that data is being collected. So these are all supposedly things that need data to be collected by YouTube for you to get them. So the things are on the video level, is comments, personalized ads, info cards, and end screens. Those things require data for them to actually continue to do those. So that's why those are gone. And then on a channel level, if you book your channel made for kids, you lose all those same things: comments, personalized ads, info cards, and end screens. But you also lose something that's huge: the notification bell. So no one's going to get notified. You lose your stories tab, you lose your community, and then you lose the save to playlist and watch later. So all those things are data supposedly that have, or data is included with that. That's why you lose it, because they can't collect data to give you those features. So those features are now gone.
This might be the most important part of the vlog. 1 hour 50 minutes. Anyone who's timestamping this, that is an explanation that I have not yet heard, and it makes total sense. And it's absolutely idiotic, but that is my personal belief. Okay, it makes total sense. Like that, all of these things require data to be stored in order to save and watch later. And total sense. Okay, amazing. Agree or disagree with it? That's what it is. That's why it's going to be penalizing these channels so hard. Which might I don't think it's going to kill the channels. It's just going to make them less interactive. And like it's. The funny thing is, it's going to make it like TV. Okay, they release a new video at 5:30 every Wednesday. Got to go to our computer and watch the video 5:30 Wednesday. The biggest problem is that all of this crap might turn YouTube into television, which nobody watches anymore.
Hey, my name is Mary Jones, and I'm from Springfield. Love this video.
Where's that? Springfield where? Because there's 17 Springfields. Okay. Recourse against bad algorithmic decisions. CLD California AB 1790 giving rights to marketplace sellers apply to YouTubers, especially with super chats, etc. Nate, this one's gonna have to be for you. 6.
I wish you get. Let me see. Regarding recourse against, I don't know what is happening. I don't know what. I'm sorry.
This looks like a California statute. 6 Silverman. You don't need to post another super chat. Just clarify what you mean by this in a subsequent comment, and we'll bring it up.
Yeah, because I am not familiar with California law. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry.
Boomers still watch TV? No, they don't.
Oh, did you? Oh, you missed 2 other super chats.
Oh, no, not possible. Okay, Uncivil Law says, I am 11 years old and my we're taking that one down. It's a joke. First of all, whose number 86? Dude, whose number are you giving? I don't know what that. I'm done.
It starts with 311, so it's a
all right. And then we got Tony Clevenger says, take that demonetization. I'm going to check to see whether or not this has been demonetized. My live streams thus far, in all of my temporary demonetization, the only one has been permanently demonetized was my live stream with Mike Cernovich. I should have said his name. This one might get demonetized now too. But the one that Robert Barnes did, it was temporarily demonetized, got remonetized, but it didn't get whatever. Sorry, I'm shaking the table. Yeah, it didn't get whatever recommendations I think YouTube otherwise gives to other streams, but whatever. My name is Steve. I am from Jada. I love your video, Steve. Thank you very much. Don't matter.
Oh my God.
How about hold on. Admiralty law?
Admiralty law. Oh, that's it.
Let's bring that down here.
I am not dealing with admiralty law. That's one thing I'm totally ignorant of.
Okay. Assembly Bill 1790.
I'm sorry. I'm just not familiar with the California statute. I apologize.
It's very good and it's very nice. I mean, it's an important thing to recognize when we can't even answer the questions. But hold on. But who was it? It was 6. Let me just see what his name was. Bringing it back up here. Tony Clevenger. Did I miss this one? Your maker. Much love to you and the family. I really enjoy your videos. The whole ad situation sucks. It has gone crazy the past couple of years. Well, I don't know if anybody saw Tim Pool's video, which was YouTube's getting screwed, but I'm going to be rich. Ha, ha, ha. Which is like, yeah, political channels are now going to get the upswing of all of this this downfall, sort of, so to speak. It's the advertising money's there. It's just they're going to find another outlet for it. But I do think it's going to work its way out. I just think the massive undue panic is about this massive fines coming from the FTC. The issue is just going to be YouTube. The issue is going to be with YouTube. I mean, that's what I'm predicting, and that's where I think it's going to go. If you mess around and you don't err on the side of caution in labeling your videos directed for children, YouTube's going to give you strikes. They might not, end your channel, but they're going to give sanctions. And then the issue is, even if you do flag them as for kids, then you're going to live with the consequences, which is no comments, no playlist, no whatever. And you're just going to have to get your audience engagement through other means, which might be cross promotion on different platforms. Life finds a way, to quote, what's his name?
To survive?
The guy from Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Life finds a way. It will find a way, just so long as YouTube doesn't actually bury itself in the ground like MySpace. Okay, so it was California AB. Okay, so 6 Silverman. Sorry, we can't answer the question, but marketplace sellers. Anyways, maybe one day, but not during this stream, because this is not legal advice. But no one likes being wrong on the internet.
But
what do we got?
So hold on, let me see. There was one other thing I wanted to mention about this. I forgot. Oh yeah, so essentially, what the question is, what 2 things. Number one, there's anybody who's telling you that you're going to get $42,000 per violation. That's just that's screaming fire in a crowded theater. You know what I'm saying? That's very, very. Could it happen? It's like yeah, I should get meteorite insurance because I could get struck by a meteor right now and my house be destroyed. Is it likely to happen? Probably not. You know what I mean? And the second thing is that a lot of people are confused and unable to say, well, are my videos or is my content child directed based on these factors? A lot of people are looking at one factor and they'll say, well, it's animation, so it's definitely child directed. Again, that's not the case. You have to look at all the factors together and then try to come to that conclusion. Don't just think if you have a child in your video, then it's automatically child directed. Look at the other factors and really try to determine whether they meet more than one factor.
No, and then that is going to be the bottom line. Is I do think that people are going to say they're going to err on the side of false positives. I think ultimately at the end of the day, they're not going to flag everything, but the people who know that they're creating child-directed content, they're going to know it, and it's like obscenity is you'll know when you see it, and they're going to have to take the proper precautions and then figure out the business model. I think they will survive on the sponsored videos as opposed to the AdSense revenue, but we're going to see what happens. But where it cuts off to one, it's going to increase to another because the marketing dollars are going to be there on YouTube, and they're going to find a place to spend their money.
And also about the fines, the FTC at the press conference said, what we do is we say, how much did you make off this violative conduct? So if you have a video that's only made $100, they're not going to fine you $42,000 for a video that's only made $100 or $50, because they say they look to see how much you made off that content and then add a multiplier. And that multiplier could be 5, it could be 10, but it's not going to be 42,000. So understand, if you really do a little bit more research and just educate yourself, because the $42,000 number is a big number. But I like to use the example of not Lori Loughlin. What was the one that just was sentenced to 14 days for the college admission scandal?
Lori Loughlin, and it was Felicity Huffman.
But she was risking. Remember, they were saying she can get up to 50 years in prison, 50, 60 years in prison. She got 14 days. And the reason why is because the federal government here in the United States likes to hit you with big numbers, but at the end of the day, it's not, it's likely not going to be that much. Is it possible? Yes, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah, that's no. So hold on, it was Felicity Huffman who plea bargained to 14 days, served 12 in prison. Lori Loughlin, she didn't get sentenced yet, did she?
No, she hasn't got sentenced, but
she might. And that's another thing. Like I did a small 2-minute appearance on a Toronto radio station. We're like, yeah, she could get 50 years. She could get 50 years. I presume if she did, it would be appealed overnight.
Of course, they could throw that out.
And it's not, there's the expression, I think it's from Homer's Odyssey, every fear hides a wish. It's not like anybody should wish to get a $42,000 fine from the FTC for a video, but if they did, the content that would make, I mean, for years, because I don't care what anybody says. A lowly individual like myself getting fined $40,000 for a video, you take it. There are courts of equity, or there's recourse in equity. You just do it, and it'll make for great content. It'll make for an amazing story about how the administrative state goes bonkers. And I don't think anybody wants that. So I do think it's going to be exercised in reason. I think the issue is not the fines. It's going to be how YouTube implements the new rules, and they got to figure it out.
You should be more afraid of YouTube than you are the FTC at this point, especially if you're not making $1 million off of YouTube a year. Your biggest fear is going to be YouTube, not the FTC.
Absolutely. King of the Lion Guard says, "Do you think YouTube is going to go out of business?"
No.
They are also going to find different ways to make money. But the other thing is, people they'll find ways. They'll just charge more for. This is the reality, the economic reality, as far as I'm concerned. When you lose the targeted ads, it's not like just take the toy companies. They have $1 million budget. It's not like they're not going to spend it. They're just going to say, okay, well, we're not going to spend $100,000 for 10 targeted ads. We're going to spend we're still going to spend $1 million, but for 1,000 generalized ads. They're going to spill it a different way. It's just what's going to happen. But no, I think YouTube might just go out of business. If YouTube goes down, it's not going to be because of the FTC regulation. It's going to be because of their own political nonsense. If I can say it that way, they might kill themselves as a platform if they don't give the impression that they are promoting free speech like they say. They will either spend $1 million on targeted ads, or they're going to spend $1 million on contextualized ads. They want to spend the money. They're going to spend it anyhow. There's no better platform than YouTube thus far. I mean, go back to TV. What are the alternatives? I mean, maybe they'll be a better alternative, but what are they right now?
Yeah, and don't forget something like unanimously. Like think about this. It's just Christmas time, and you're a toy company, and unanimously, YouTube. Kids say they watch YouTube unanimously. That's what YouTube's own numbers. They said every poll they've taken asking kids what's their favorite website, unanimously it's always YouTube. Do you think advertisers are not going to recognize that who want to sell content to kids? Of course. And that's what they're going to think what Viva said is 100% correct. They're just going to dump that money, but they're going to do it in a different way. And I think those ads are now going to become more valuable because now it's going to be harder to direct it to kids, but the money that you do have is still going to have to be spent because you still got to get those toys in those hands.
And you know where the business is going to be? It's going to be in marketing agencies that are going to make the most targeted, contextualized ads. Everything breeds a new specialty. It's like this. I'm not particularly worried about it. Even if I operated in that domain, I would focus more on sponsored content. And I've been trying to do it anyhow. But I'm not worried about the FTC. I'm worried about YouTube. But it will work its way out because the demand is there, and the demand for the content is there, which means the demand for the marketing is going to be there. They're just going to have to figure out how they spend their marketing dollars.
Yes.
They're not upping and leaving because where are they going? Is my bottom line assessment.
I agree.
Okay, so let's see. Did we miss anything, Nate? I think we actually covered. This is, if anyone has not been watching this has been the most informative 90 minutes on COPPA on the internet, if I dare say so myself.
Yeah, because we've talked about it all. We've gotten. Let me see. Advertisers aren't necessarily going to get $1 back.
Not necessarily going to get $1 back for every dollar spent. They could pass the threshold where sponsors learn it's not worth doing it on YouTube. Yeah, but if it's not worth doing it on YouTube, where else is it worth doing it? Because I don't know of any other platform where it's worth doing it.
Yeah, and think about it. I'm talking about, just really think about it. You have every poll that's been taken from kids who watch videos online or even visit any online site unanimously say YouTube is a site that they visit. Of course, the advertisers aren't going anywhere because you want to service those particular consumers. It just makes sense. And how many was it? Like 98% of the kids watch YouTube. It's a ridiculous number.
So, and it says where the ad money goes, it will be under COPPA investigation eventually due to money. Yeah, so COPPA is going to follow it. This is true. They're going to follow it for compliance, but it's just going to be advertisers learning to work within the new framework of government regulation, and that's sort of the way the interplay works between government regulations and free markets. But yeah, COPPA will go wherever the advertising is going to go because that's what COPPA, or not COPPA, but the FTC exists for. I mean, that's maybe not only what they exist for, but that's what COPPA rules exist for. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, look, we can all agree that you shouldn't be collecting personalized data on underage users regardless. I think some of the fears are sort of antiquated, like the comment section fears are somewhat antiquated.
That's going to bug you for the rest of the night, isn't that?
That's going to drive me nuts because the other thing is COPPA's not the parent. The COPPA's not the papa. Oh my gosh, that's going on a shirt. COPPA is not the papa or the mama. Like, yeah, fine. If a kid's, I don't say silly enough to do that, but there are parents in here that we don't need the FTC usurping their rules. So like kids want to be stupid on the internet. It's not like a comment on YouTube is going to be the risk factor. If they're going to be stupid on the internet, they're going to be stupid elsewhere. So yeah, there's that level of lunacy, and there's that level of sort of like nanny government where they're usurping the rules of the parent. But yeah, well, we'd agree they shouldn't be collecting data on kids. Fine. Targeted ads seems somewhat invasive in any event. I think the real issue is like the degree to which there are targeted ads. Forget the fact that it's for kids. If we can appreciate that, like targeted ads might apply to, for example, Facebook or Google accessing our microphone and then placing targeted ads based on hearing our conversations when we're not online. That's where I would have more of an issue, which I think is probably more realistic than the kids stuff. What was the thing? I got an ad that was so absolutely unique to something that I have no problem talking about, but definitely don't talk about publicly. Yeah. And I got an ad on Google. I was like, that's not possible. That's not possible. It's not possible. It's a coincidence. But yeah, there's data harvesting everywhere. And I think we just get up in a tiff when it's about under 13. But I think data harvesting in general is sort of the bigger issue.
Yeah,
I gotta remember what the ad was. It made no sense that I would get an ad for that. Should I say it? I can't say it. One day, Nate, I'll tell you.
You got me scared now, man.
If you know it's not scary, it would just be too embarrassing to talk about publicly. But yeah, crazy. Where's the audience? YouTube. Don't worry. This is going to be an evergreen discussion because as COPPA hits the fan, people are going to come to this live stream and learn about the actual intricacies. The bottom line, the FTC fines are probably the lesser of the concerns. What YouTube is going to do to channels who misrepresent their videos or inaccurately tag the videos, you might have issues. We know why now COPPA would even apply to content creators, by extension from app designers. And there's a ton of other stuff that we learned in this stream. It's fantastic.
Well, I also want to show you this. Screen share my screen real quick. Now this is something. Oh, yeah, the screen.
No, hold on. I'm blowing everything. No, not right.
There it is. Now this is something now interesting. Doing research for this stream tonight. And actually I got to give a shout out to my man Uncivil Law in the shout out again. Great guy. That's my boy. Black Leaf. You know, I love you, man. So
Uncivil Law, Uncivil Law is another one of the great law YouTube related channels. So there's the if anyone wants to post a link to Uncivil Law, post a link to your channel. I'll bring it up.
So one thing, now check this out. So if you want to see what personalized ads that you have for your devices, now this is where you go on Google. So this is like dropped in everywhere. So this is for me. Personalized ads are on, and you can actually see, like, it has my age. I'm a male. It shows you. I go to YouTube, Quinby, again, and you'll see, like, I get ads for all these things, and it shows you, like, this is what I'm targeted for. Places I go, movies that I like, and look how long this list is.
Hold on. How did you? Am I on mute? Okay, I'm here. How do you get that? How do you see that?
See. Uh-oh. Now you want me to give out my secrets? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No, it doesn't matter. But so
let me go back. No. I'll show you right now. All right. So first you go to now. This is how you get here. So first you go to YouTube, right? Then the first little link, it says privacy settings. So then it goes to Google privacy settings. Then when you go to Google privacy settings, you go to terms of service. And then you go to privacy up here. It says It says privacy and privacy policy. When you click that, it should take you to your personal. You actually scroll down here. I'm doing this horribly, but you scroll down. It's going to tell you what your personal ads are. There's a button you click here. Now I can't find it
because I want to turn one off for Lululemon that I've been getting systematically on every video, and I don't know why. If I hear the music for that Lululemon ad.
You can even export your data, which is interesting. You can export the data, your data. So Google gives you all these features. I forget, where is it at? Now I just lost it because
no, it's very cool. I mean, that's fun. But
here it is. Here it is. Okay. Google Ad settings, and under Google Ad settings, that's when you can turn it off, and then you can go here and you can click and change whatever you want. So these are the companies. These are my interests. This is what people what they say I like. TV comedians, everything. So it's all here. And you can actually download this data. You can check it. You can change it. It's fascinating. And you can actually turn it off for yourself. And there's even more options. So if you want to see, again, it's in Google privacy. If you want to go and check it out and see what they have targeted for you, you can see it. Again, this is all your platforms, all your devices, everything. If you sign into Google or wherever, this is what they're going to be servicing ads for you. So it's pretty interesting. Cool. Yeah.
Feather Mason. Kronos, you all heard about ad block, yeah. Except for that, YouTube implemented their new policy of if your channel is not commercially viable, which a lot of people think was targeting specifically people using ad block. But I've never used ad block. I've never used ad block. Oh, there we go. Brought that back. Very cool. Okay. What do we got here? El Rojo Grande says I segment of Google. I can't think. The entire company. Okay, there's a separate discussion going on here. Google ad settings. Okay, well that's what we can do to get
ad settings. It's true, yes. But it's fantastic. It's interesting that the way you get to see like how much information they have about me. Like they know I like basketball. They know it's just like I'm like wow, like it's crazy. It's crazy. And just imagine they were collecting this on kids. So.
Okay, totally phenomenal. Okay, my computer battery is at 21%. So let's give, what are we at now? 1:39. Let's give like 6 minutes max for any questions we may have missed. Does anyone have any questions we missed? Nate, this has been phenomenal. I think
I
want to think of anything. Oh, the petition to get in touch with the FTC. Do we have a link for that?
Yes. Matter of fact, I'll give you the link. All right. So there are two links I'll give you. One is the FTC's new regulations, just to show you what they say, why it applies to content creators, what you should do, the factors and all that. There's going to be two links I'm going to give Viva. Hopefully you put it in the description or I'll even put it in the comment section. And the second one is going to be to regulations.gov. I'll just screenshot so people can just see.
Okay, and Nate, post it in the comment, and I'll pin the comment to the top.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely do that. And this is the regulations.gov. I don't know if you can see that.
Is there any way, forget whether or not it's Trump, is there any way the government gets involved to figure this out? Like, if the government regulated YouTube, would it solve anything, or would it make it worse?
This is the government. This is the government regulating YouTube. Exactly what this is. Hey, screen share this last screen share. I'm so sorry.
Here we go. No, don't. Good. Boom.
All right. So this is regulations.gov, and what you can see is that this is the new regulation for the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. Now, this is legally they have to do this, and they have to do this to December 7th, I believe it is. You see how many comments they received? 161,000 comments. Last time they only received 500.
That's madness.
And last time with just the 500 comments, they made some adjustments. So now with this many content, and then you can actually view the comments. I tend to upload on YouTube. A lot of them are YouTube people, going crazy. But so it's here again. You want to tell them exactly, hey, there may be a better way. You may want to give some ideas. Again, you have the legal right to comment, because if this is going to affect you, this is how the law is passed. And I hate to get too legalese here, but if you're talking about like the due process, this is the due process necessary for them to pass this rule that makes it so it's it has the force of law. Without them doing this, they couldn't enforce it. So this is the due process that we have to actually get this law changed, or to change it in a way. This is something that you can actually do to change the law. And again, they read these comments and they take them into account. So go here. There's 161,000 comments received. Go here and see, and let your voice be heard. It's your constitutional right. I would go and leave a comment. I'm about to leave a comment actually after we finish the stream. So
it's a good thing they just got $170 million to hire new employees to read the 161,000. Is there a way to delete everything Google collected on YouTube? I'm sure there is. You probably just want to look that up on YouTube. I'll do that afterwards. Ethan Harrington, are you concerned about how upcoming changes may affect you directly? I'm not so concerned. I'm just worried about maybe a few lingering videos from the past that might be potentially deemed to be child directed, but I'm not so worried about it, because I think it's going to get swept up in the YouTube algorithm. I'm just not going to care about overriding those false positives, even if I think they're false positives.
Did you see that example that I gave with my kid's birthday party?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that on your video about it.
Now, do you agree? Do you think that was kids directed content or not?
I think it was. I think it would be deemed to be kids directed.
Yeah.
The reviewing of the weightlifters.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be deemed to be kids directed.
Oh, cool.
But an argument. I mean, how much would that fine be worth if there's an argument and say, and if the argument is only okay, so I'll be more clear in the future and take that video or flag it now. No, that's not a $40,000 video. I mean, it's not a $200 fine. It's just it's maybe a warning. But I think the more likely thing than not is it's going to get swept up in YouTube's AI. And if you want to contest it, you'll have to override their automatic flagging and then deal with them afterwards. That's the extent of it. It's the fish video. Hell no, that was directed at adults, because to fly a drone you have to be 16 years and older. Come on.
No, like anything they flag of mine that for kids directed, I'm just leaving. I'm not even gonna deal with it. I'm just let it go.
Especially and some of you might be asking, why the heck is this kid awake at 10:45 at night on a Friday night? Why are you awake tonight?
He wants to.
Yes, that's right. He wants to. What does this say? I want to film something with you, Viva, on civil law. 100% anytime, man. Don't hit the mic. The mic has to stay touched. On any time on civil law, we'll talk. We'll talk, because I think Nate gave you my contact. But yeah, for sure. This video. Hold on, one second. We got here. This video was great. How happy his reaction was. This guy. Oh, dude. He just pulled a Swalwell on national YouTube. Dude, get out of here. Get out of here.
We have child-directed content, too. There's a child here. There's a child here. Children are going to want to watch this.
So I want to feel okay. We got that. There was one other blue comment here. We got that. We got this. Okay, Viva YouTuber's going to have to go to PBS. Nobody's going to PBS. I thought that said BPS for a second. Black Pigeon Speaks, but now I might have just gotten this stream in trouble. Yeah, she's no. I don't think anybody. I don't think the Habs are playing tonight. Are you watching hockey? No, no idea. All right, man. So that's good. I really do think we covered everything. I don't think there's nothing more. It's not to say that we've covered everything. I think we've covered everything. There's nothing more that's going to happen now until something new happens, either by new regulation, by reaction, or by implementation in 2020. Sorry.
Yeah, December 7th is the date that you'd have to, again, go and file your comment with the FTC. After that, it's just they're going to do what they're going to do. So that's the only hard date coming up. But I think no one else. I've seen no other video that went into this type of detail with this. This is as good as you're going to get. Without hiring somebody to go over your specific stuff.
No, that's it. Until there's something new, this is okay, dude. Hold on a second. Just stand up here. You can look now. Just look. Until there's something new. What happens December 9th? That's the end of the comment period.
Yes, that's the end of the comment period where they take it, they put it in there, and then they'll put it out. Now, the one interesting part is, let's say if they get a lot of comments and they have to change the law, and it's a substantial change, where the change was like where the way it works is that they put the law out and say, we're going to put this forward. Notice and comment, and then if the notice and comment, if they don't change it, then it becomes into effect. But if they have to change it, then it goes to another notice and comment section. So it could possibly happen, especially with this amount of comments. But we'll see. And look at the comments too. But again, if you're going to go there, make sure you write something, smart and understanding, what's going on, instead of just, I hate you guys at the FTC.
No blanket threat. No, be smart about it and don't waste a comment if they have to employ another person. That's another YouTube fine to pay that salary.
And just for the political people out there, these are both Obama and Trump appointees on the FTC that voted to do all this. So this is not, this is not just, I've seen a lot of that. This is a Trump government thing. No. These are Obama and Trump appointees all together doing this. They've been doing this under Republican administrations and Democrat administrations. This is not a political thing. This is just something that they do. So,
okay. First of all, I hate the swallow fart jokes, but when there is an actual fart on the YouTube, one must own it. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Never was me. Never was me.
All right, we're gonna end it now. Nate, stick around. We'll catch up afterwards. Everyone, thank you very much. This was it. Share this link around if you've watched this. Check out Nate's channel. Check out Uncivil Law, because there's the YouTube law community is growing, and I see it on a daily basis. So check it out. Nate, post the comments and I'll pin it to the top, and that'll be it for tonight's broadcast. I saw end. That'll be it for tonight's live stream. Thank you all for watching. And okay, now I'm going to go and slowly and discreetly hit end broadcast. All right, people. Do this for now. Freezing. And see you guys later. End broadcast. Now I